going on, everybody, and welcome to the channel. Hope everybody had a freaking awesome turkey day. Today, we're going to be taking a look at an old school gaming PC that has not been used in at least 10 to 15 years. This thing is old school. I can't wait to show you guys. Before we get into today's video, I want to clarify on something. In a couple of my previous videos, I was advertising the fact that I was going to have members only content, and I have decided not to do that. I feel like it's a money grab from YouTube. I don't agree with it. It's not fair, especially to those viewers who cannot afford to pay for a monthly subscription to see subscription-only videos. It's not fair. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. So what I decided to do is I'm going to leave the members-only option up so that you guys can simply donate to the channel if you want to help support the cause. This channel is essentially dedicated to showing you guys what older PC hardware can do. And I want to keep on spreading that message. To me, it's not fair if people have to pay to see certain types of content. And when it comes to other channels that are doing it, I don't like it. It doesn't make sense to me. We get monetized by YouTube. We get paid once we hit the partner program, which I did a few months back, and it doesn't make any sense. Not to mention, if you ever get sponsored by a company, why charge people to watch your content? It doesn't make any sense to me. It's not fair. So what I decided to do is Repair, Revive, Repeat does have a Discord, and all you have to do is join the Discord and you will get access to insight to future builds and future content. So I'm going to work it from that angle. Again, the members only content, to me, it's a money grab. It's not fair. I don't freaking like it. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead, we're going to get into the video, we're going to see what this PC has inside, we're going to go ahead, we're going to hook it up, test it, see what it can do, see if we can get into the BIOS as per usual, and if you're new to the channel, that is typically how this goes, and then we will go from there. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Y'all are freaking awesome. Let's freaking do this. Alright folks, so here's our PC in question, and this thing looks freaking awesome. It's a little bit beat up, but it's not too bad. And in my opinion, this thing looks it looks sweet. So, first impressions of this thing, I do notice that we have quite a dent going on right here. It looks like it might be pushing our side panel out, but to me, that just adds character. It's not a big deal. Hopefully we can get that fixed up. So, moving to the back here, we'll see that we also have a little bit of damage going on back here. It looks like our rear panel here, it looks like our rear here has been pushed in a little bit. I don't know if you guys can see that gap right there, but there's definitely something going on here. And then another thing, we do have a graphics card. So I can't wait to see what we got going on the inside. A few other things to note. We do have two front fans going on here. I can see that one is mounted frontwards and one is mounted backwards. I don't know if you guys can see the second fan, but there is definitely a second one. We are also missing quite a few screws. We only have 3 screws holding 2 fans in. So it looks like somebody mounted one as intake and one as outtake, which that doesn't make no sense. But not everybody knows what they're doing when they're building a PC. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to get this thing hooked up. We're going to see if we can get some picture on the screen and then go from there. Alright, so we got this thing all hooked up and ready to go. Do you guys think that it's going to give us picture on the screen? Fingers crossed. I'm praying that this thing is going to work. Let's freaking go. Let's go ahead and power this thing on and see what happens. Uh-oh. Looks like we're not getting any power. So that's not good. Let's make sure that our switch is flipped on the back. Alright, so the switch for the PSU was not in the on position. We have it turned on now. Let's go ahead and see, when we hit the power button, do we get picture on the screen? Do we get power? Alright, so we do have power. But do we get picture on the screen? Alright, so we get picture on the screen. Let's freaking go. Unbelievable. Yes, thank you. I'm so glad. Let's go ahead and see if we can't get into the BIOS. It looks like we do not have a boot disk, which is typical for these types of systems. We're going to see if we can get into the BIOS here and see what kind of specs we are working with. Alright you guys, so we were able to get into the BIOS and we are working with a Core 2 Duo. E4600 running at 2.5 gigahertz. Not freaking bad at all. So aside from our CPU, you guys, we are dealing with 2 gigs of RAM. So given that this is an E4600, I'm assuming that this is a DDR2 system. So this CPU came out in October all the way back in 2007. So this thing, it's nearly 20 years old. It's very old. So we're going to be working with 2 cores, 2 threads, a TDP of 65 watts. Obviously our frequency is right around 2.4 gigahertz. And then when it comes to socket size, we're looking at 775. So definitely an old system. It's amazing to see that this thing actually turns on and it works. I can't wait to actually work with this and see what we can do with it. We are definitely going to be upgrading our RAM to at least 4 gigs. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to get this thing laid down on the operating table and see what the inside looks like. Alright you guys, so we got this thing laid down on the operating table. Let's go ahead, pop this panel off and see what we got going on the inside. So it does look like we are missing a screw on the back here. We only got one holding it in here. Not a big deal. Alright, what do we have in store for us inside? Oh, alright. Popped off kind of rough there. Alright, oh man, looks like we got a rat's nest going on inside here. Go ahead and unplug these front fans. Alright, so before we get to the goodies on the inside here, check this out. This is hilarious. We have 1 fan exhausting, 1 fan intaking. Makes no sense. Aside from that, we do have our little inserts here that go into the case. They're all bent down. I don't know how this thing was even being held in there, but look at this crap. This one, and this other one are all just, they're mangled. How is this thing staying in the freaking case? It's freaking hilarious. Alright, so moving on to the goodies on the inside. We do have a GPU here. Very small, nothing impressive. Looks like we have a standard Dell motherboard. But if you're working under a budget, something like this could be perfect. So it looks like we have one 120mm fan at the rear. We do have another one at the front. And then we do have a 330 watt PSU. Honestly, I can't even pronounce what kind of PSU it is. I have to get it out of here and see exactly what it says. So this thing is definitely horribly cable managed. Judging by the case, I can see an area back here where you can actually run cables. So I don't understand why people always do this rat nest crap. But we're going to go ahead, we're going to get this thing apart and check out the condition of everything on the inside. Alright, so quick note, as I'm taking this thing apart, I noticed that not a single screw is actually screwed into the standoff. They're all slightly raised because they don't fit into the standoffs, and we even have a standoff screwed into a standoff over here holding this thing in here. What a pain in the ass. Alright, so I did have to go off camera for a second there. This thing was an absolute pain in the ass to get out. This is absolutely ridiculous. Let me get this case out of the way and show you guys what I'm talking about. Alright, so if you look over here, you're going to see screw 1, 2, we got 3, 4, and a standoff. Somebody literally used a freaking standoff and screwed it into a standoff, and it is stripped in there. Along with all these other standoffs, they're still stuck on the bottom. Absolutely ridiculous. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pull those out real quick, and then we're going to check out the rest of the case. This is just pure laziness. I don't understand. Some people just, it blows my mind. Alright, so before we dig into the rest of this case and get the rest of the stuff out here, I do want to give credit where credit is due. Though this thing was put together like a 2-year-old did it, the inside of the case is extremely clean. It looks really good in here. There's no dust really, there's nothing, no hairs, no nastiness, so definitely not freaking bad at all. One thing that I do know is the fact that we have another screw that does not fit into the hole of our DVD drive. So obviously I'll be pulling that out, pulling the rest of the stuff out, and install the proper stuff. Alright, so we got this thing all nice and stripped out. We got all our wires nice and hung here. We do have our DVD drive, and then I do have a fan up here that I still got to get out. Probably going to do that off camera. Give this thing a quick clean. Let's go over some of the parts that came out of this thing and discuss whether or not any of this stuff is going to be usable in our game testing. Alright, so first up is our PSU here. Looks like we're dealing with a Logisys 330 watt. I think it's 330 watt PSU. Honestly, I've never heard of this brand before. It does look super sleek. Nice painted black. I love how this looks. A little bit of dust, but nothing too crazy. Attached to our PSU, we do have all kinds of adapters going on here. And then I have a couple sitting over here. So, whoever did this, they had to have known what they were doing. They had to have some inkling of how to put together a PC. I don't understand why they did what they did with the screws. That was just, like I said, probably pure laziness. So we'll go ahead and set this off to the side. So when it comes to our motherboard, it's in extremely good shape. Not a speck of dust on here. This thing looks incredibly good. So I'll probably end up just getting some new thermal paste on our CPU and call it good with that. Next up, we have what I do believe is a GTX 745. These are 4 gig desktop cards. They're not too impressive. They're not really good for gaming, but I think for our benchmarks, this will probably be perfect. This is probably a good pairing with our dual core here, or Duo. And then next up, we have our single 2 gig DIMM. We are going to be upgrading this to 4 gigs, so we can at least get max potential out of this thing. Alright you guys, so when I come back, this thing's going to be all back together. It's going to be ready to test. Let's freaking go. Alright, so before I show you guys what the PC looks like all put back together, and it's looking amazing so far, this is what we plan on upgrading it with. We're going to go with the Barracuda 500 gig hard drive, and then we're going to be going with G-Skill DDR2 1066 megahertz. This is a 4 gig kit, and it runs excellent. I love this older G-Skill DDR2. So, I'll be right back with you guys, and we'll see what this thing looks like all put back together. Alright you guys, we got this beast all back together, and holy cow does this thing clean up. Freaking fantastic. It looks so good. So before we get into the PC, we'll take a look at our front panel real quick. I ended up doing away with one of the fans because it does not support 220mm fans, so I just went with the one. Not a big deal. Moving around to the inside, look at that cable management. It looks so freaking much better. Thank God that this thing cleaned up the way that it did. So we have our RAM sticks up there. We have our hard drive. We've got our GPU. Everything is nice, good, ready to go. Still a little bit of dust here and there. Not too big of a deal. I'll probably clean that out off camera when I get ready to sell this thing. So most importantly, does it still power on? And are we going to load in our operating system? Let's freaking find out. Alright, so we get power. We got our fans lighting up here. I like that red, it looks pretty damn cool. Do we get picture? And there you have it, folks. We are loading into our operating system. Let's frickin' go. I'm gonna update this thing, install some drivers, get our games installed, and we're gonna see what this thing can frickin' do. You know, it's pretty funny how straightforward some of these seem, and then all of a sudden it throws a curveball at you. And this build definitely has thrown a curveball at me, and I'm not too happy about it. So, first off, the hard drive we were using failed. Gave me blue screen after blue screen. It would not load into Windows past the screen that you just previously saw. So I ended up installing an SSD with an extremely cut down version of Windows 10. And I was like, okay, cool, it's working. But no, it still doesn't work right. So we can see here, we have 2 gigs of RAM installed. We got our Core 2 Duo. And I do have a DIMM installed. However, I discovered that this channel is completely dead. It will not even register that there's a DIMM in that slot. And these are all the DIMMs that I tried. Actually, I tried several more. I tried maybe like 12 different DIMMs, just hoping, crossing my fingers, that maybe one of them might just work. So here's the stark reality. Either this slot has died, or we have a dead channel on our CPU. I'm not entirely sure what kind of testing we can do with just 2 gigs of RAM. I mean, especially with DDR2. So I'll try and figure out some games that might run on 2 gigs of DDR2. But I think my options are quite limited. So when I come back, either I will be doing an outro or we'll have some games. Alright, you guys. So 3 hours later and about 4 beers deep, I cannot get this thing to do anything. I know that with the 2 gigs of RAM, even with that bad slot, that this would definitely run some older games. But I want to do some modern game testing on here, and I have gotten some of these old DDR2 systems to run modern titles. This won't even launch Diablo 3. Their minimum spec requirement for RAM is 4. If you do not have 4 gigs of RAM, it will not launch. This is quite the disappointment, especially since I put in so much work to get this thing up and going. So I'm going to say that this is going to be part 1 of 2. Next episode, we will definitely be replacing this motherboard that has at least 4 slots, so we can get up to 8 gigs of DDR2 and comfortably run Windows 10. And then we'll be able to test some games. But how it sits, it's not going to do. It won't do anything. When it comes to having benchmark with the 2 gigs of RAM, it gets like 15 to 20 FPS. It's horrible. I know y'all want to see this thing run some games, but sometimes stuff like this happens. It is what it is. It's out of my control. Again, there will be another episode. This is part 1 of 2. We are definitely going to swap out that motherboard, and hopefully we'll be able to get a much better result. In fact, I know we will. Until next time, you guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll catch you in the next one. Stay freaking safe in the world.